is Jane the new Pauline? This is by I Am the Born Reborn. And they say, yeah, is Jane the new Pauline? She used to be empathetic and interesting now. It's just bitterness and resent. I can't stand her anymore. Now, I need to clarify, who is Pauline for the newer people? Pauline is such an interesting character in a perfect way to say it, because you can basically describe this in two halves. You have Pauline of early years, who's just a wonderful lady, not happy-go-lucky, somewhat thriving, working the laundry, and then from like 1990, or from when Arthur cheats on her, she's just a miserable cow. And I know that's heartbreaking to say for
I
all the
mean,
Pauline fans, but she
like
is.
like you said, it's Pauline Fowler. She is Lou Beale's daughter, and if you don't know who Lou Beale is, I mean, Lou Beale is she's not the original battle axe. Obviously, you have Ina Sharples and Corrie, who kind of takes that to a whole nother level. But she is EastEnders' original battle axe. If you know what battle axe is, it's the kind of term given to the women who have experienced a lot in their lives and aren't necessarily the most happy. They will often yell and scream. Basically, It's hard to love a battle axe. Essentially, is it? Hence why the name. It's very hard to always look at it. Like you look at it and you're like, yeah. I mean,
And
it's why. I mean, the most famous examples you have is Shirley, Lou Beale, Pauline. It's basically the characters who are you'll have like a vulnerable scene with them like once every 2 years, but fundamentally they go from one to yelling at you in an instant.
And like Pauline is a troubled character in her own right. I would always like to do a video at some point. I say this every time, but I'd like to do a video going why, like, compare. I know this is gonna sound controversial, but compared to Shirley and Lou Beale in a sense, why is Pauline regarded as such a bitch? I know that's
And we say that it's simply because any time that Pauline is brought up,
she's not looked
every
upon
time
friendly.
the show is essentially like because you have the thing, right? Because obviously Pauline was married to Arthur. Arthur and Pauline obviously had Michelle, Mark, Martin. So whenever Arthur's brought up, it's like, Arthur, he was a good bloke, wasn't he? You know, he always put his heart into it, despite Arthur being absolutely useless. And he was work shy. He didn't do anything. But whenever they bring up Pauline, it's like, oh, remember Pauline? Remember how Pauline yelled at everyone and she was really mean to everyone? Yeah, remember how Pauline was a massive bitch? Like, what? You were just saying that Arthur was really lovely. Yeah, but fuck Pauline, though. It's like,
Uh,
sorry? And
and
that's the kind of cognitive dissonance because that's how it felt like Pauline was at the end, where, yes, in the end, I mean, Leslie Grantham called her a dragon. Like, it was, I, she yelled at a lot of people. It was 1 to 100 very quickly. But in her own right, she was simply Lou Beale's daughter. So,
I will
and she had a pretty rotten life.
I will say, from what I hear from the online scene, is also Wendy Richards, who sadly, who plays Pauline, who sadly did pass shortly after her exit on EastEnders. Wendy Richards was not a fan of how the character was going, because if you don't know, after Arthur, she said that Pauline would never marry again because Arthur was her true love. She even references in her last Christmas, that everyone tells her this is not what Arthur would want, but she knows what Arthur would want because she was fucking married to him. And Wendy Richards was like, but she would never marry again Pauline because she's stuck to Arthur. But the writers were like, yeah, you don't know anything, you old bitch, shut up. And just like changed her character completely, in a sense. They made her remarry. And anytime they asked Pauline to leave the show, she went, I'm not leaving. I'm like, I guess she's here for 4 more years, guys. And I
And it
just
was
want.
also like, and we say that as well because the amount of like, obviously this is all like rumor and innuendo. None of it's ever actually confirmed. But it felt like every like year there was like, all right, how can we get rid of Pauline? Okay, Pauline's gonna die of a heart attack. It's like, what? Pauline's gonna die of cancer. Pauline's gonna have a miserable, sad death alone. Yeah, it's just felt Pauline's gonna go to jail. Like, it felt like every couple of years, it's like, how can we just fuck Pauline over?
I do want to say, imagine being called a dragon by Leslie Grant and the man who murdered someone. That must be that must be something. Who looked like a fucking gremlin in his last years of life, but however, um, but like she's such, and especially I've seen it with the Christmases from watching Ode to 2012 and seeing like when Pauline's there to when she's obviously dead, and then you have Neymar. No, is it Neymar? The woman of Masood's first wife, uh,
Zainab?
Zainab, yes, where she's like, "Am I the new Pauline? Everyone compares me to Pauline." And it's like, you don't know, love, you don't know. And yeah, she's such an interesting character as Pauline, and yeah, like I Am the Born Reborn says, is Jean the new Pauline? This is an interesting comparison because I don't know how you can be the next Pauline simply because of how Pauline
True.
is referenced in rumors and in innuendos and shit. Because it feels like that when Wendy Richards was Pauline, they didn't know when she was Pauline and when she was Wendy Richards. From I know it's got compare it to like when Jim Carrey
I
did.
mean, she doesn't really have the best reputation
No,
at any point in time, you know.
but
A lot of contentious things that people feel towards both the character and the actor.
I will say, if you want a comparison that will work, compare it to when Jim Carrey was doing the Man on the Moon movie with Andy Kaufman, and he thought Andy Kaufman was an asshole, so he would just go around being an asshole to people, being in character as Andy Kaufman, and people went, "Yeah, well, you're being an asshole," and Andy Kaufman wasn't an asshole. That's how I feel like it was with Pauline, where they were like, "Paul, you're not Pauline though. You're Wendy Richards. Yeah, fuck off." But the question is Jean the new Pauline? Simple answer: no. She is just a miserable. It depends how you take it, but she is just a miserable woman who had a rotten 2025. I need to lay this out. In 2025, Jean lost her daughter's husband, well, ex-boyfriend husband, and the father of most of her grandchildren's, like most of the father's grandchildren, um, and has lost her daughter who's gone to Brazil, and is resenting Zoe because she blames Zoe is the problem. When you look at it, Jean is mostly at fault for her problems. But if you want the short answer, she is not like Pauline, simply because Pauline was good for about 5 years, miserable for about 15. And I know we've just ragged on her, but that is honestly how she's remembered. And with Jean, she's just
Like, we'll take the piss out of her, but it's more so it's us lamenting how current writers treat Pauline. And I still like Pauline as a character, and I
oh
still
do
think she was a great like servant to the show. But she's just not really viewed as like at this point in any favorable light, which feels a bit wrong, but it's just how it is, unfortunately.
Um, and again, Jean is not the new Pauline. No one can, no one will. I don't think anyone can replace just Wendy Richards. In my eyes, being Pauline, I don't think anyone can replace her. Um, they can always try and create a new Pauline, but my God, it's hard to have the piss and venom that she did have as Pauline. and and I'm just saying I don't. And the problem is the woman who plays Jean. I forget her name. What's her name, Ash?
Gilliam, right?
Gillian Wright. Yeah, she just seems like such a lovely Like you look at Pauline on screen and you look at her off screen, you go, she just seems like a miserable person. But you look at Gillian Wright, who does everything for charity, knits and you know plants plants flowers and shit. Because I follow her on the Watching Walford Instagram.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are you getting this from?
Yeah, she just does a lot of stuff for charity. She's just like a nice woman.
Oh, fair enough.
She just loves play. Like it's why whenever I take the piss out of Jean, I'm taking the piss out of Jean. But Gillian Wright, the actress, is just a lovely person. She tries and does her best for charity. She knits a lot. She doesn't run, but she like knits and she writes. I don't think she writes, but yeah, she's just a lovely human being. And I feel like she plays the role of Jean so well that you completely forget how nice of a person Gillian Wright is actually. And I know this has been a video of me shitting on Wendy Richards for about 9 minutes, but in comparison, I'm just saying when you look at Wendy Richards, you go, when are you Pauline and when are you Wendy Richards? And then you look at Gillian Wright, who plays Jean. You're like, we know when you're Jean and we know when you're yourself. And she seems like a nice human being. Like, if I could, I'd have a pint with her. Well, a non-alcoholic pint, but I'd have a pint with her. She just, yeah. And she will never be the new Pauline. She'll just be a miserable woman who will hold a lot of resent to Zoe Slater because she blames Zoe for the problem. When in fact, if she actually pulled her finger out of her ass, she would know that the problem is the fact that her daughter had to leave because being remembered, staying in the same place where your husband, ex-husband was killed, will do a lot of there will be a lot of grief there. Like, it's the one thing that I wish they acknowledged when Stacey gave the cash to Kat was the fact that Martin died in the Vic. Like, that would, like, to me, if my dad dies on a construction site and then I'm like, I'll buy the land that he died on and just completely forget like that he died on that land, it'd just be a bit weird. Like the comparison I make, it's like the house that I used to live in, my granddad built that house, but he was fired in one of the bedrooms. He was fired in one of the bedrooms. So like we stayed in that house, but like he was fired
Who
there.
got the last laugh, bitch?
But yeah, it's that kind of thing. But it's a funny story though, because my dad always tells me that story of like, yeah, he built the house, he built all the houses, and then he went up to the box room, the little small room. The guys just sat him down and went, "Piggy's granddad, you're fired." Fired.
Yeah. I suppose
Yeah,
just
your
for
thoughts?
just for this thoughts, is Jean the new Pauline? The
No.
answer's no. But I feel like she is getting the reputation that Pauline had towards the end, where basically throughout the whole of 2025, she has been angry and bitter and resentful and is often, choosing herself over other people. She's being selfish and she's just she's trying to hold together what she thinks is her family, but also like fundamentally she's just been a bit of a cow about it. And we've seen it in how she responds. But it's not like it's unfixable either. Like we always kind of maintain this. It's not like Jean's unfixable. You
Yeah.
just have to make Jean a bit more likable, which isn't hard. You just have to stop yelling at everyone.
But
But it does feel like there is a new direction for Jean where it looks like she is going to struggle with her bipolar disorder. And it seems like she's kind of showing some of the tendencies of Jean like when she's struggling. And it's the thing you do with Gillian Wright. She is a tremendous actress. She plays the role of Jean really well. And every couple of years, you do give Jean a storyline where she either goes off her meds or she goes into a manic episode. And then you kind of prove why she deserves to be there because she does. And she's done a good chunk of time on the show. And it feels like, in 2026, probably there's probably going to be a big Gene Slater storyline, and it's perfectly realized. It's perfectly like reasonable, and I think it'll change a lot of the perspective on the audience. Who, yes, you may be tired of Jean, but when she's actually given something meaningful to work with, then you kind of go, yeah, you know what, we were a bit too cold towards Jean. She is actually a really big piece, and she is often overlooked. So, yeah, I think it's kind of just a I don't know, people judge too harshly, but also after everything she's been given this year, I'm not surprised that there's a lot of kind of
resentment, hatred.
resentment towards her.
And I understand. I spent the first 9 minutes making fun of Wendy Richards, but I will say that she does seem like a lovely human being in real life. Before she passed, obviously, and everything here was mostly jokes. And I just want to say that yeah, Gillian Roy is again a lovely human being in real life, and she plays the role of Jean perfectly. Like I've been ranting for months that Jean is like in the wrong for all her problems, but the problem you have to realize is she is mentally not doing well. I have to guess in the show because again, her daughter left. Her daughter's fucking ex-husband died. I know his boyfriend, but he kind of married her in a weird way without a priest when he was dying. Um, he died. So like, and then her husband, her boyfriend cheated on her. So you can kind of see why Jean is getting the Pauline treatment. But again, she's not the new Pauline. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye.